All right. Diane, who are you?
Right? Who am I? Who am I today and what I thought I was going to be years ago are different people, but it's great that I'm able to find out what my passion is. So it's come to me in the last probably 8 years, and believe it or not, but I found myself in a state prison.
Yeah, that's well said. Like there's the cliffhanger, right? So how do you I'm going to come back to the who are you question at one point because I love that you're coming into this and some people never find, right? Kind of what really lights them up and so forth. And having a bit of backstory, I obviously know or can fill in those details. So we'll get into that. But just for context, how do you describe to people what it is that you do?
In a sentence, I tell them that I interview people inside prisons and share their stories with the world on our social
Hmm.
media and website.
And how did this all come to be? Why don't you paint the picture for us?
Yeah, I found out that the University of San Francisco, where I got my master's and my teaching credential, had a presence in there, and had always wanted to go inside a prison. So I jumped at it. So I would go in the morning and teach about five guys how to be mentors and build curriculum. And then our program in the afternoon, we would bring in a free teacher on the outside, pair them with one of the mentors, and teach guys to get their GED.
Wow. So and then okay, so I'm trying to, I guess, because I read somewhere at one point in the prep for this. I mean, I think you, like most of us, describe that prison and probably other prisons to your kids as like that's where the bad people are locked up, right? Which I mean, I can hear myself saying that at one point too, and now I'm like, oh gosh, just kind of pains me a bit. So, but when did that change for you? Because like when did I guess the perspective shift of course you were doing that while you were teaching that's one thing, but then now I feel like you're going to a whole other level, obviously, just connecting with the humanity of people inside.
Well, I see this whole project, this human San Quentin and me in prison, as my own developmental journey.
Mm,
So from this first day I walked in, the men that I met and the truth, the vulnerability, it opened the world to me. It broke glass ceilings, and they still continue to. So all the prisons that I've been into now, all the people that I've been sitting with, for me, it's educating people along with where I am learning. So our mission is twofold: one, to share their voice inside, but then secondly, to educate people on the outside. And it's been moving. So, I mean, I remember one of our mentors inside. His name's Rodney. He's still inside, and I asked him why he wanted to get his GED, and he was one of our mentors inside that was also training some of the men in there. And he said he wanted to get his diploma before his grandchild did.
oh gosh.
Yeah. So the ripple effect of that one degree, and now he has a picture of him holding it, it affects a whole community of people where he's from down in LA and all of us. So for me, the impact of that felt much greater than say I would have had with the second graders that I was teaching in the affluent neighborhood that I was in here in Marin County.
Yeah. What else in the early days, what else just initially surprised you or caught you off guard that just kind of broke your outside perceptions of what it's like?
A lot of times people always say, "Oh, do they talk about their innocence?" And no. So that is what hit me right away is the accountability and responsibility and how they could articulate it. But pretty quickly, within weeks, it pointed all the figures to me for how our society is set up and our defaults. And for me, I see those as wonderful opportunities where a lot of us can go in and help correct that. So I found out pretty quickly that we are locking up the poor, the mentally ill, the drug addicted,
Mhm.
the homeless, uneducated. So for me, felt like something as a society I could share that, and hopefully we could step up and help combat that.
I saw, I wrote this down, it's this really I think you said that you mentioned this to me when we first started speaking, our intro call, and you said something to the effect of, at one point, you said, like, "Send me the scariest person for the next interview because I haven't seen them yet." What did Fill in some flavor on that, because I feel like that also again, like, I'm thinking of all the outside perspectives or perceptions, I should say, that most of us have that I think you're able to break given you're actually spending time with people who are incarcerated, right?
Mhm. So when I was making that comment, I think what really feeds our society is the media, and we only know the people that they talk about. So, and the people that are sensationalized for us and the ones that are most detrimental to us and the scary to us, I have not seen in prisons.
Mm,
So it's less than 1% of the people that we are scaring the public with.
yeah.
So
And for
for me,
context, you've interviewed something like 3,000 plus people, is that correct?
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
and
Keep going.
all not all over the world, but I wish I were in more places around the world. But yeah, I've been in lots of other countries. So I don't know what it is with society, but we like that fear factor, I guess. So we want to hear about that person. But what's also interesting with the media, they don't dive into that person. You
Yeah,
don't necessarily hear what it is that really psychologically sent them there. All we do is sensationalize the facts, and we like to be left not knowing and have this monster that we've created. And then, as a world, we think they live everywhere. And oh my God, we got to lock our doors, and we have to be petrified all the time. That's not reality.
yeah, yeah. What's the reality that you see
I see,
and feel?
yeah, and Phil, I have never met a person in prison that wasn't a victim first.
Mm,
So the trauma that are walking into our prison doors is startling. And as a society, we can't heal, we can't be better until we address those. So back to the same, 5 things I was telling you about earlier, we have to take care of kids that no longer go to school. We have to take care of kids who are not given 3 meals a day. We have to take care of people who start acting out during their teenage years. We've got to have these safety nets. We have to have what when I was growing up, we called them mental institutes. Now, I think a better term would be wellness centers. There
yeah.
needs to be safety nets within our community, within ourselves, where we see those things and we come at them in a loving, compassionate way in order to help them to make all of us heal through it.
So when you're in conversation, first of all, I mean, I guess how do you prepare for these interviews, and just help us like paint the picture for those who haven't watched or listened to any of your podcast episodes. Um, like, what does it look like? Like, what's the flow?
It's very, very organic, but I'll set the stage for you immediately. And you speak to a ton of people. It comes naturally. A lot of us run into people on the streets, friends, and we start out with a statement that all of us take for granted. And it doesn't necessarily change us. When this question is given to you or I, we're going to look at it and we're going to decide in our mind how we're going to answer it. So I'll sit down with someone in prison. I don't look at what their crime is.
Okay.
I'll look at what they've written to me, but I'll sit down with them face to face, and it's going to bring me to tears to say this because it's such a raw sentence that you wouldn't think would invoke so much emotion. And I simply look at them and I say, "How are you?"
Oh, yeah.
And people in prison don't get that. If someone is making their way inside with a camera, with or without a camera, and they're looking at them and they're asking them how they are, it is not to sit down and find out how they are. Right?
No.
You're there for their crime. You want to hear about what happened. And and it moves them in such a way that instantly they're in tears, right? So your conversation really starts from a raw point of view. But they've also done some homework on me, and they also realize where I'm coming from. So it's a very honest, wholesome place where if like anybody, like you and I, if there's something you don't want to talk about, and I do apologize right in the beginning that I don't know their story, I don't know them that well. So I ask them to forgive me if there's something that I ask that is out of line, and give them full reign to not answer it. But then I also tell them that when I walk out, if they change their mind, or if there's something they don't want to share or something that didn't go right, it can be scratched. I can take
Yeah.
it out, or I can not share them at all. So I'm not coming in with an agenda, feeding the media or feeding an audience. Um, I take that back a little bit. I am feeding an audience that I want to show that they're human,
Sure.
and there are things that got them there.
But good
But
on you. I mean, that's not easy because first of all, it's not easy even any one of us. Like there's when you don't know someone, I mean, you're kind of in defense mode, and especially when it comes to media stuff, it's like how, how's this going to be used and so forth. And then I would say kind of on their side as well, they've probably been burned so many times. Like I would think their defense mechanisms are sky high, right? So for you to come in and be able to hold space and give that sense of like true safety. I mean, that's not easy to do, right? Where did you learn how to do that?
I don't know.
Mm,
Probably being a teacher. And I also am a people pleaser. So when I talk to somebody, I'm not, I want to be very careful that I'm not ever putting them in an uncomfortable situation. But I
yeah,
think what's important to note, what you and I are talking about, is it's not simply a conversation where I'm sitting down with them. There's a correctional officer in the room, and there's a handler for me. And then typically there is some kind of staff
yeah,
that is there to oversee the whole process. So every word that comes out of these people's mouth is being scrutinized. And they also have to be regulated in how they talk. So the area that they're coming to me with is emotional, but also difficult.
mm,
So that's usually what I'm toying with
yeah,
is, are the words that I'm going to be saying going to be acceptable? I don't want to get this person in trouble. I don't want to be asking things, and they are vulnerable. So
yeah,
at
yeah,
some point, it's a gift for me to be there. So that's a really, really hard dance.
yeah. Do you find there's a point, and I mean, of course, every interview is different, so this is a generalized question, but do you find there's a point roughly throughout the interviews where you notice them kind of forgetting that there are people around them and it's just the two of you?
Yeah, pretty quickly after I ask them.
Oh, the how are you?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
and I just and I sit and ask them questions about themselves, or pretty quickly, all of us notice when you're talking to somebody, usually a few sentences in, someone will share something personal about themselves, so I usually tend to go down that route. Um, and it really works, but, I've had a few minutes with them off camera, or I do try to get them alone for a few minutes to build that trust in them that I'm not looking for anything here, and I'm not looking to take anything away from them. So that really helps, right?
Yeah.
Sharing that vulnerability with them, knowing that they're protected. So that's always the number one thing I'm coming out with. I do not want to hurt them. Plus, these people in prison are going to be judged on whether they can walk the streets again, and what they say to me can be used against them. So I want to be
Yeah.
very careful that, we're on pins and needles with what it is they talk about. But yes, all that fades away instantly. And, the interviews are on our website, and you can see very much how heartfelt they are.
And what's the overall for you, the overall objective of a conversation? Like you're going in, I know you're going in, it's not scripted by any means. You're going in, just flowing with conversation, but like do you have is there just an overall goal for each interview, or is it kind of vary but based on I guess you don't have that you have a bit in terms of what they've written in as detail, but other than that, you have kind of very little to go off of, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes,
Okay.
100%, but I'm also a macro thinker. So with
Okay.
every person I come out with, my ultimate goal is to be planting seeds of change around this world for
Mm,
who it is I'm sitting down with. So same with that, fighting that narrative that we are talking about earlier. I don't want to feed that. So I very much want an organic, heartfelt conversation.
yeah.
So my thought is, that whatever stereotypes you have, hopefully you'll change them. So when that person's out of prison, maybe you'll offer them a job. Or if you're in some town and you happen to have a prison nearby, my hope is you'll take your skill in there,
Mm,
whatever it is, right? It can be very minimal. It can be simply, well, they're all volunteers, but hopefully you can go in and order, offer some kind of service. And that truly 100% mark is where the rehabilitation in our country comes from. You need to have contact with someone on the outside, a free person that can help you walk through whatever it is you're trying to learn, and simply instill within them those pro-social skills of having that conversation and be educated like I am, and hopefully share that when you walk out, because there's so many groups of people that I talk to out here. And after I explain to them, and if we're in person, I don't like to get up on stage without someone previously incarcerated, they will then see, oh my gosh, this is not someone I should be afraid of. This is maybe
yeah.
someone I should give a second chance to. So that is the goal of what I want people to unearth as the people that we're locking up.
What do you think your interview subjects get out of these conversations? You've had so many now, so I'm sure they've written to you or you've talked to them post. Some of them post interviews. Like what are they getting out of these conversations?
So this is my happiest question that you're asking me.
Mm,
Um, there So when we originally started this, I knew that the people inside would really like their voices being heard, but I had no idea the magnitude that this went to. So, not to start you out with the startling fact in the beginning, but there's numerous people that have written to us and have told me in person that we've saved their life.
wow.
Literally. They were going to take their life before they knew that people like me were out there. So, what we do in our process is when someone mails something to us, we have high school interns that come in here uh, after school, and they write back to the people inside. We send them a certificate of vulnerability. We make comments about what they wrote to us in a letter, as well as take screenshots of everywhere that their story went up online so they can see their likes and follows. Obviously, we take out the names so people's
Yeah.
private information isn't set inside. But that right there lets them know that in some way we're all connected. What you
Yeah.
do and where you are matters. And we've also had people that have met people out here and gotten married and had kids and reconnected with their family. So we're really held in high regard inside. Um, it's been an
It's
absolute
beautiful.
beautiful soul filling adventure for sure.
I also love that your interns are out of high school. Like there's another, I think, give back to just society, right? From a younger age to right away give that whole generation or the ones, and they're so um, the younger generation. I mean, they talk obviously to their friends and their families, and they're so influenced at that age that to give them this view and this perspective and seeing what's coming in. I mean, like that's another whole ripple effect of the work that literally will last generations. That's powerful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as a natural person, you are naturally narcissistic, right? So, in order to survive, so here you hit your teenage years and you're given the opportunity to give back or to see someone from a different point of view. And then it changes your mind really quickly. A lot of us usually would, if we're given the opportunity to go to school or once we work, you're stuck in there, right? You
Hmm.
then have a married or family or get into your own interests and don't always have the opportunity to get back. If you're introduced that to you, and some would come to us as early as freshmen in high school at 13 years old, most of them are about 16 or 17, and then the summer we have college ones, but it changes everything about them. But coupled with that, they are also being raised in a different generation than I was. So during my upbringing, there was Clinton, there was three strikes you're out, lock them up, they're bad guys. We've done a much better job with this generation. Wellness is a word they know. They know how
Yeah.
to take care of themselves. They're very sensitive with the adverbs that they use when they talk to people. They're ready for it. So they see them as humans. They don't already come with that narrative that I had. and it changes them. I mean, there's, many of them are college or graduating from college that have done wonderful things for the world. Like they've been to great colleges and are socially active and really changing our generation. So it's been beautiful. Yeah, it's probably one of the biggest perks, and they're definitely the most people that we have working for us. We have something like 60 interns now that are in high school that are working
Wow.
for us.
Good
Yeah.
for you. That's amazing. One of the topics I wanted to bring up with you, and I feel like you're just the perfect person to have this conversation with or discuss this topic, is just humanity. And I think you mentioned it earlier on that when you go into these interviews, you're not focused on, or you don't even know what the crimes are, and like you're really at the core, like tapping into the human on the other side of you. And there's one thing to talk about that from the perspective of course, within prisons and so forth. But I think in general, right now, as a society, I think it's the thing we struggle with the most. I mean, we're not even out here, we're not kind to each other. There's so much division. There's things that are happening on social media that if we were just like, wait a second, there's another person there on the other side of this, that like we just don't think of this anymore, and it's sad. And I think even with technology and AI and so forth, and I'm working a lot with this technology for my next book, and it all keeps coming back to don't forget the humanity of behind using these tools or building these tools and so forth. So it's a topic that I think right across the board is or should be one of the most important things we're speaking about. I'll stop there. I said a bunch. What are your thoughts?
um, I think what really gets me, and I don't know if you've seen this one picture. I think it actually started at Burning Man in the Nevada desert. Someone did an art ensemble of two people with their back to each other, and
Okay.
they are wire, and inside are these two little babies that are trying to get to each other.
Oh, wow, I
So,
haven't seen that. Okay.
yeah, it's very, very powerful. So when you talk like that and when I hear it, the first thing that comes to my mind is how much kindness there really is in people.
Yeah.
So this project wouldn't go nowhere if we weren't naturally kind inside. And people would not be seeking out what someone else is thinking or doing without it. So I think that's the crux of what really is behind a human. And by uncovering those people, I don't know how many thousands I've talked to, 3,000, but there's 11.5 million people incarcerated in the world, that we are all kind inside. We are
Mhm.
all born the same.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, the argument to that is, and I can hear it in people's heads and what they want to say is, there are people out there that are really cruel, that have done really cruel things. And in my opinion, yes, there is a
Yeah.
very, 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 very small part of our population, less than 1%, that do really need to be taken out of population. Um, Depending on if we put other crimes in there, but yeah, it could be more than that. But they also can be treated humanely, right? Behind
Yeah.
that human, they can be taken out of the general population and can still be doing good for society and maybe not intermixing with them.
Yeah. But I think as you're saying that, what comes to mind was something you shared earlier that really, for me at least, landed straight in my heart. And it was around that you haven't met someone that wasn't a victim first. And I think even in, again, like people that are not incarcerated, that are saying things or doing things that are hurtful and so forth, that principle probably applies, right? And maybe taking a bit of a step or a pause before we or whoever's on the receiving end or whatever it is, just before you just jump into some sort of reactionary mode. Like I think I think we need to take a bit of a pause and remember that fact, or remember like this is not me, or this is not even the circumstance. This is coming from somewhere, and somehow figure out how we can be open and actually have like a conversation, right? Like that's the thing that seems to be missing. Like, can we just have a conversation without heated emotion, that just propels it to something that becomes like non-repairable or something, right?
think when I hear you talk, the very first thing that comes to my mind is education, right? If you don't have anything to break that narrative or you don't have a frame of reference, then you can't developmentally go there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So where do we I mean, if you went back to your original teaching job, like, where would you s how would you do things differently, or how would you kind of bring in this narrative to these kids?
That's a hard question because I taught in a predominantly white community of privileged children.
Mm,
How I would have mixed that with the prison population I deal with now, I don't know how I would do that. But then I also had to take my emotional journey to get here. But I think I am doing that now with all the interns that I see afternoon after school, right?
okay.
Still in that same similar demographics of a county and introducing them to the people that live right here with them. We have, I think, 2,400 people in San Quentin prison, um, which should be integrated more into our society, right? Into our
Yeah.
community. And when our interns turn 18, then they can go into a prison. So then they actually get to meet the people, or a lot of people that they've spoken to. We have our inside
Mhm.
team that either
They
talks
probably
on.
can't wait to get into the
Oh yeah.
prison, right?
Oh yeah, like their 18th birthday is a wonderful thing, so they
Yeah,
can then be cleared to go in. So
it's
yeah, we
wild.
all live for that. Yeah, it's usually, the last half of their senior year.
Okay. I wanna
So yeah,
talk a little
that is
yeah,
I mean, that has really changed the flavor for, I think, our population here.
yeah. I wanna talk a little bit about you specifically because and this show, there is a through line around everyone here listening has some sort of curiosity around practices and mental fitness and so forth that will help our minds, even have a conversation like what we're having right now and being open and curious. Like it's really hard to do that when your mind is so full and stressed in survival mode and taking on so much energy from others and so forth. So I guess my question for you is how do you like what do you do for you so that you're able to hold space for so many people? Because even when I was doing the research, I can't remember the name or how recent this interview was, but it was just a lady that was sharing. I think she was incarcerated when she was 18, and I think she was like 41 at the point, and at that point, and chatting with you, and I was just thinking like, gosh, that is like she literally, and I think you said this in the interview, like she grew up in the prison. And like, I mean, I'm just watching minutes of this. Like you're doing hours and hours of these interviews, and I'm like, that just like took a hold of the heart. Like it's heavy, right?
Mhm.
So, how do you manage your energy and all of this coming in so that you can still function and do this really important work?
Yeah, I'm glad you're asking this because it really makes me break it down for how it is that I'm able to cope with it. But first and foremost, I have a chocolate addiction.
Okay, you and me both. This
That
is
really
probably not
helps.
this is not good for my addiction because 'cause I'd be like, "See, this is validating."
Right? And I can't have any kind of, ice cream in my vicinity whatsoever, so that
Sure.
goes away. Um, but truthfully, I look at it as how many people are really willing to sit down with you and go deep right away. That doesn't happen. I mean, you and I go to plenty of parties and cocktail parties and even friends we know well. You can't always go deep with them. That's not accepted out here.
Yeah.
So for me to be able to sit down with somebody and they're going to tell me everything, cough up their worst and their best. I mean, it brings me to tears to think that I'm the one that they're choosing to do that with.
Mhm.
And at the same time, like we were talking about before, it's also a delicate balance, right? I'm
Yeah.
not going to go anywhere and do anything with it. Um, but what I've also noticed is so I'm the youngest of seven kids,
Mm.
and I have four older sisters, which as women, I really don't think we're nice to each other,
Okay.
even as a whole, right? We're not as supportive as we should be. So there would always be a lot of negativity or gossip that was happening, and I've noticed as I've gotten older, but also coupled with what I'm doing now, I can't have that in my life. I can't go negative with people and I can't gossip.
Mm,
So that has helped me regulate where I am with all this other information that I'm getting, right? It's a lot of negativity, it's repression. What I have to stomach that when these people leave me, where they're going to, what their lives are like. I've got to really keep myself in a positive spot around positive people
yeah,
that right can help me and not add more onto it. Also being the mom of 4 and being married, there's obviously a lot of drama that's always happening every
sure.
single day. But I think just being a positive person, and I really look at things in a positive light everywhere I go. So even if I'm having a bad conversation with somebody, I'm backing it up with the positives that came out of it or what we're learning from it. So I'm really good at pulling away from each conversation with something positive.
I love that. Positivity, but then I think what I'm hearing is just protecting your energy in that inner empire, that inner space, knowing how important this work and, of course, your own family is to you, that it just takes precedent, right, over everything else that's out there. Which, again, I think all of us listening could use a dose of that, right? Like I call that mental nutrition. Like what are we feeding our mind, and that includes people and content and so forth. I mean, because if we
Mhm.
don't think about it by default, you get hit with basically the fast food of content
Mhm.
and emotion and energy, and that we know where that leads. That doesn't lead to a good spot, right?
Yeah, and I think just seeing people, the first thing I always think of is what is the good in them, right?
Mm.
I'll look at, so that's natural for me to be able to look at something and I know there's something good there, and always kind of seeking that out. So I think that helps. But that's a great question. Thanks for asking.
Oh, you're welcome. Do you have any other are there any other rituals after, let's say, an interview or series of interviews that help you just not necessarily in the protection side, that's I see that as a little bit more proactive, but after the fact, like to help release, any of the emotion and so forth, like what are the things or the activities or practices that work well for you?
Well, I'm a verbal processor.
Okay.
So, and this follows back to when I was teaching. So, anytime I would take my second graders on a field trip, we always had a pre and post. So, we
Mm,
would talk about all the things that's going to happen before and then afterwards. Or, same when I'm raising my kids. We're going to go over to so and so's house. This is expected. And then afterwards, be like, oh my gosh, can you believe that happened? Or, how did you handle that? Or, how did you think so and so felt after this happened? Right. So, the
yeah.
negative and positive, we could really learn on either side. Um, which I always do the post afterwards. So anytime I get done with something, I usually verbally want to go through it, ideally with someone else. So
Okay.
therefore, it takes concrete shows what happened, also
Yeah.
helps us remember um, what came out of that, also gives me that other person for a frame of reference.
Hmm.
And then I know I keep going back to that positive part, but it also lets me rejoice in all the good things that just happened.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
other than that, and I do like my workouts, so I do like to get some endorphins going, so that really helps me, um, regulate too. Yeah.
Yeah. Diane, is there what would be if you had a message or two that you would just love to leave with this everyone listening, this audience? I mean, what would that be?
That's a very powerful question. I think the typical sentence that we've heard through the years, or at least I have, is not to judge a book by its cover. So there's a lot of people that I interview, people that I meet, and you look at them and you're like, no, they're not coming in my world. No, 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 no. We got to change that. That narrative
Yeah.
that fed us there, we need to be more open to each other. We need to start seeing the good in one another. And we also need to give people second chances, right? When you look at the people that we're incarcerating, they're uneducated, they're poor, they're drug addicted. They desperately want us. They desperately want to see that someone on the other side cares.
Yeah.
And I've watched this change on the prison grounds that we've been on, especially in San Quentin. When you approach somebody with vulnerability, your relationship with them will change. And guys inside do the same thing we do out here. Like they'll see somebody and they'll be like, no, this is what I always thought. But with our program, since you're able to share your emotions and share what's going on, then they also break down those walls as to what they thought of each other inside. So if there's one thing that I would share with people is, if you're safe, to be more vulnerable with one another.
Yeah. Diane, I just love that. I mean, there's so much impact in terms of what you're doing, of course, within prisons, and then of course outside with people that are directly touching your organization. But just in this conversation alone, there's just so much here that can also be translated to almost every aspect of how we live and interact with other people. And to me, it keeps coming back to that through line of putting our humanity first. And gosh, I'm just so grateful that there are people like you out there doing this work and dedicating your time and your energy, because it's so powerful, and it literally will affect generations to come and has the opportunity to change, something that has just been, well, that's just how it is kind of thing, which,
Mhm.
is never really the best way to look at any kind of situation. So I mean, I thank you for making time to come on the show, but of course, a higher thank you for what you do day in and day out. And yeah, the door is always open over here. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Well, no, I got to thank you. Just by interviewing me, you're letting out all those voices inside prison, which is admirable. Most people want to close that door, right? They think we've taken care of it. They need to be here. They're closed. So someone like you who's really let me be a voice for them, I appreciate that, and your compassion. Yeah, all your questions are great. So I really appreciate it. And I've got to go and listen to more of your podcasts.